Today, we're going to talk about conventions and book fairs and signing events and what goes into those from the writer's perspective and how long in advance you should be preparing for these appearances, because there's a lot more to it than you probably expect. Hey there. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. I'm John Hartness. I'm the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books, creator of the Saga Genre Fiction Writers Conference, professional editor, and the author of over 40 books, including The Black Knight Chronicles, Bubba the Monster Hunter, and Quincy Harker, Demon Hunter. And today, I want to talk about conventions, because convention season has started. Yay! Convention season, for the record, runs about 11.7 months of the year. Realistically, from about the 10th of December to the second week of January is your time off, if you hit a lot of conventions. I think the last one we did last year was the 8th or 10th of December. It was whatever the end of the first weekend of December was our last con. And for most people that I know, their first convention was Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, the second week of January. I didn't do a convention that weekend, which turned out to be a really great move on my part, since the Carolinas and Virginia got hammered with snow and ice for 2 weeks. My first convention was last weekend at Con Possible down in Atlanta. And as I'm getting prepped and trying to remember where I put all my tech and everything else, I thought, I bet a lot of people have no idea how much preparation goes into a convention from the writer's standpoint, and how far in advance that writer starts working on a con. So I wanted to take you guys through it. Let's start 9 to 18 months out from the convention. Maybe as much as 2 to 2.5 years from the convention if you're going to be a guest of honor. Usually for a guest of honor gig, your invites are 18 to 24 months in advance, because most conventions want to announce their guests of honor for 2027 at the end of their 2026 con, which means they have to be booked well before their 2026 con. So 18 to 24 months is kind of standard for a guest of honor. For mere mortals, usually it's 9 to 12 months out when you apply for a convention. Some cons have a shorter timeline. Some conventions do rolling acceptance and may be passing out guest invites up to 1 to 2 months before the convention. But typically, in that 4 to 12 month out time frame is when you're going to get your acceptances. And a lot of times that's in that 6 to 9 month sweet spot. I believe I got my acceptance for Dragon Con this year right after it might have come in December or first part of January. So around 8 to 9 months before the convention. We sent out guest acceptances for Con Carolinas in January, conventions in June. So 5 months. So anywhere from 4 to 12 months out from the convention, you're looking to lock in your appearance. And then 3 to 6 months out, you book your hotel. This is not as easy as it may seem. For some conventions, you may need to book your hotel before you're accepted to the convention. Dragon Con's is that way. You're booking your Dragon Con hotel the minute you check out on Labor Day. You're not waiting to apply to be a guest for the following year. Because if you don't, you're not getting a hotel room. Or you're going through the Hunger Games waiting for the rooms to be announced and you can go get one. But usually 3 to 6 months is when you need to figure out your lodging. And there's more to it than just, are you staying in the convention hotel? For the record, if you have the funds to do so, and it makes financial sense for you to do so, please book your room in the convention hotel. People who are running conventions, our rate on the space, on the ballrooms, on the meeting rooms, that is determined by how many room nights we book, how many heads in beds, because that's what the hotel's living and dying by. It's not on the rent on the meeting rooms. It's on the rent on the sleeping rooms. If you are coming in on Thursday and leaving on Sunday, that's 3 room nights. And if it's a small convention, they may need 200 room nights. That means they need at least 68 people doing what you're doing, coming in on Thursday, leaving on Sunday. Otherwise, there are penalties, and those penalties can be huge. A lot of times when inclement weather happens, people are like, why didn't they cancel a month ago? They could see that it was going to be tornado season. When COVID happened, a lot of conventions were getting slammed on social media because they weren't canceling until the state declared a state of emergency or banned large interior gatherings. Well, that's because they had contracts where the penalties would be tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars if they canceled and there wasn't force majeure in place. If it wasn't an act of God and it was possible to create the show, they had to do the show. And a lot of cities didn't ban gatherings early enough. So conventions had to wait until they could cancel without those huge tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in penalties. So if it makes financial sense to you, if you can swing it, please stay in the convention hotel. Sometimes it's not going to make sense for you to do so. Falstaff Books will have a presence at StokerCon this year. Well, StokerCon is in Pittsburgh, and it's at the Westin. Hotel rooms are not cheap, and because we're doing 2 tables at StokerCon and we're bringing 4 people, I'd be looking at booking 2 rooms, and that would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So that's 8 nights at around $200 a night. That's $1,600. We're staying at an Airbnb. It's still going to cost $700 or $800, but that's half what it would cost to stay in the convention hotel. Another way that you can cut costs, and boy, I've done a lot of this, is get a roommate. If I'm going solo to a convention and a friend of mine is also going solo to a convention, I might have a roommate for that show. It happens. I don't love it. I'm a 52-year-old man. I haven't had a roommate since college, other than my wife. But there aren't any writers that I plan on cuddling with. So having a roommate at a con isn't my favorite thing, but sometimes it's the only way to make the money work. Because a lot of times when you're a guest at a convention, you're on the hook for all your expenses. Typically, if it's a small science fiction and fantasy con, unless you're a guest of honor, you're paying for that hotel room. And while I always want to stay at the convention hotel to support the con, sometimes I need a buddy. So find a roommate. And that's what you're doing in that 3 to 6 month window. You're figuring out where you're staying. You're figuring out if you've got a roommate. You're figuring out who's driving. This is important. Figure out who's driving, because not everybody is a good passenger. Then when you're 4 to 6 weeks out from the convention, Inventory. If you're selling books, and boy, I'm practically never doing a convention where I'm not selling books. If you're selling books, you got to count what you got, figure out what you're taking, order stuff. Do not wait until 2 weeks before the convention to place an order with your publisher. You will not have books in time. Printing is taking longer and longer as more people are self-publishing and more small presses are coming out. More people are doing short print runs. That means that it takes longer to get your stuff. Right now, today, February 2026, I'm telling authors 4 weeks for paperbacks, 6 for hardcovers. Usually that ends up being about 3 weeks for paperbacks and about 4 weeks for hardcovers, but I'm telling them longer so they're not freaked out if it takes longer. The last thing you ever want is to be at a convention and get the notification on your phone that your box of books has arrived. And the vast majority of us have had that notification happen. Or we've set up little QR codes on the table saying UPS screwed me again, so you can order this on using the QR code, but I don't have them for the show. You gotta order your stuff far enough in advance, and usually that's 4 to 6 weeks out. That's also about the time you start looking for your schedule for the convention. Now, you have several months before probably filled out an interest list for things you might want to talk about on panels. Or you may have had a conversation with the programming director or the con chair if you're a guest of honor about the kinds of things you want to do. But along about a month before the convention is when you typically want to be seeing your schedule. Then you're going to look at the schedule and see if there's anything that doesn't work for you, brother, to quote a former professional wrestler. Sometimes you'll end up on a panel that you're just not suited for. And I've done panels that I wasn't suited for, and they worked out fine. I just did a panel on science and writing science fiction. I'm not a scientist, but I can BS about writing for hours on end. You can see from the content of this channel. But I also looked at my schedule and I said, you guys have me on 3 panels back to back to back with a half hour in between each one. That leaves me no time to sell books on Sunday when people are buying before they're leaving. And it doesn't leave me enough time to eat lunch. So I asked to be moved off of the one in the middle. And they did. It was fine. I asked far enough in advance. So you want to look and see if there's a panel that's a bad fit for you. Or I can't possibly get from point A to point B in the time allotted. DragonCon does 60-minute panels with 30 minutes in between. And DragonCon encompasses 5 hotels. If you're trying to get from the Westin to the Hilton at 2 p.m. on Saturday, you cannot do that reasonably in the 30 minutes you have between panels because there's simply too many people. The walkways over the streets are often shut down middle of the afternoon on Saturday because there are too many people on them. And they're afraid that they'll literally fall onto the street. And nobody really wants that. So make sure that you can get from point A to point B. And reach out to the convention. Maybe they'll give you a golf cart. I don't know. Maybe they'll provide transportation. Maybe they'll just take you off of a panel. I've done it every different way. I hurt my foot a couple years ago at DragonCon. I was on a panel in the Hyatt, and then I was supposed to get to the Cortland Grand in 30 minutes. Most of the time, I can do that in the time that was allotted on the day that this panel was, because the sidewalks weren't going to be too bad. I hurt my foot. I couldn't make the walk. I had to message the moderator of that panel and say, hey, I'm not going to be there. I'm really sorry. And no harm, no foul. But that's the kind of prep that you're doing 3 weeks out from the convention. You're looking to see where those holes are. About 2 weeks out from the convention, you're going to take an hour or so and add your final schedule, final is in air quotes, to your app, if the convention has an app, or to your calendar on your phone. I tend to add it in both places because sometimes the apps don't get updated, and also I share my calendar on my phone with multiple people, so my handlers can push me to the right place at the right time, because I cannot be trusted without a minder. I'm hardly ever allowed out in public without someone holding the leash. And that's about 2 weeks out if everything's going well. Hint, do this work again the day before the convention starts. Go through and verify. Make sure that everything that's on the website matches what's in the app, matches what's in your phone. A week out, you want to be receiving your inventory and figuring out, kind of getting in your head when you're leaving. Maybe make a list of the things that you need to pack and a list of things you need to acquire. For me, a lot of times that involves ordering from Amazon a box of packs of Lance crackers, a box of Builder bars, and making sure I've got an extra case of Mountain Dew in the house to take with me. But another thing you're doing while you're receiving this inventory and figuring out what you're taking, also Google everyone you're on a panel with. Look at their bio on the convention's website and Google them. That way you know if there's somebody that you have shared experience with. It makes for a better panel for the attendees. And you can find out if there's someone who has said something online that you are vehemently opposed to, and you can ask to be removed from the panel. If there's someone you don't feel like you can be polite around, then choose not to be around them. That's acceptable. That's about 1 week out. Let's say the convention starts on Friday. Now it's Monday of the week of con. Monday, Tuesday, I'm looking to pack books, do laundry, pack snacks and sodas. And when I move into my hotel for DragonCon, it looks like I'm bringing groceries, because I am. Hotel breakfasts are expensive, mindlessly so. So if you're not staying somewhere that gives you a free breakfast, or it's not included with your room, take Pop-Tarts and soda, or whatever you eat for breakfast. Your room's going to have a fridge in it. Pretty much every room now has a fridge in it. It won't have a microwave, but it'll have a fridge and a coffee pot. So bring stuff. I'm usually traveling with, if it's just me, a cooler with a 6-pack of sodas, a couple of Mountain Dews, and a couple of ginger ales per day. Then on Wednesday, I'm packing my clothes and loading the car. I'd rather do this on Wednesday because I'm usually leaving on Thursday for the convention. Because a lot of the conventions I do, Con Possible was a 4-hour drive for me. I'm headed to RavenCon in April. That'll be 5. The next few that I'm doing are one-day shows here in town. I'll load those the day before. But I always want to load the car the day before I travel, except for my clothes and my toiletries. And obviously my backpack with my laptop, etc. But on Wednesday, I want to pack most of my clothes, and I want to load the car with the books and my hand truck. Thursday, you pack your last minute stuff, and then you roll out. Figure if the convention's 4 hours away, let's say I'm going from Charlotte to Atlanta. I don't want to leave here any later than noon. If I'm going from Charlotte to Atlanta and I leave here by 11, I can miss traffic everywhere. I'll hit Greenville about 1 p.m., which means that the lunch rush at Pelham Road is gone. And Greenville can stack up around Greer to Pelham Road exits. And then I get to Atlanta, 3 or 4. The real stupidity hasn't started yet on 85 and 285, and I can probably get where I'm going. If I don't leave by noon, I'd rather wait until 4 or 5, because that way I'm going to miss traffic on the other side of it. But in a perfect world, I'm leaving by noon. I'm rolling. I get to the convention hall by 4 or 5, unload clothes, get into the room, take a few minutes to relax, go downstairs and meet people for dinner. Even if I haven't set anything up ahead of time, I go to the hotel lobby, I look around, I go into the restaurant, I look around, I probably find somebody to eat dinner with. And then I'm probably sitting in the lobby or the hotel bar, networking and chatting until at least midnight, realistically more like 1. The con hasn't started yet, and I'm working till 1 a.m. Friday, I'm up at 8, maybe 8:30, depending on when load-in starts. But I want to be down at the vendor hall no later than 9:30 to start loading in. So I've got to unload the car. Well, first I've got to find my tables. So first I got to find my tables. Then I've got to see what the best path is to load in. Go load in. Usually I can get everything on one trip because I have a monstrous hand truck that can carry a dozen bins full of books, but sometimes it's a couple of trips. So then I'm set up from 10 to 12. I have lunch. I go change into my day's uniform because I don't want to unload the car and set up my books and get all sweaty and then go do panels or then try to sell things. That's why I start setting up so early, so I can go change clothes. Probably on Thursday, I'm doing at least 1, maybe 2 panels, then dinner, then networking, and I'm probably up till 1 or so again. Saturday morning, I'm up at 8 again. And then usually eat breakfast in the room, and then I'm out. I want to be at the booth between 9 and 9:30 if the vendor hall opens at 10. If the vendor hall opens later, I start questioning why the vendor hall opens later, because 10 to 6 or 10 to 7 on Saturday is kind of the standard. I'm usually doing 1 to 3 panels during the day on Saturday. I'll grab a lunch on the go usually, or sitting at the booth. And then dinner. I usually have at least 1 panel after dinner on Saturday. Then more drinks and networking. And I'm really, really trying to get to bed before 2 on Saturdays at conventions. Now let me pause for a second and talk about drinking and networking. You don't have to drink alcohol to network. No one in the genre fiction industry is going to think less of you or look sideways at you if you are not a drinker. I have friends who do not drink at all, and nobody cares. You do have to be where the work gets done. This means that you may be around people who are drinking. So if you have a problem with substance abuse, then be very cautious of your exposure to these places. You change in your playgrounds, you change your playmates in your playgrounds, but you have to be where the work happens. So maybe instead of drinking in the hotel bar, you set up a little corner of the lobby and you hang out, and the people who want to have drinks can go get drinks and bring them back. Most hotels are fine with this. So no one cares if you're drinking booze or if you're just hanging out with your water bottle. But you do need to be there. You don't have to be there till 2 in the morning. I just can never manage to get to bed before 1 or 1:30 at a convention. Monday, might be able to sleep in till 9. Most of the time, the vendor hall opens a little later on Sunday. I didn't mean Monday, I meant Sunday. Most of the time, the vendor hall opens a little later on Sunday. So you might be able to sleep in, but realistically, you're probably up at 8, eating breakfast in the room, out the door, be at the booth by 9 or 9:30 for a 10 a.m. open. Also, you may very well have a 10 a.m. panel on Sunday. Do 1 to 2 panels, work the booth when you're not on panels, pack everything up, load the car, drive home. I frequently am having a post-show dinner with people before we get out of town, because I also am very seldom eating lunch on Sunday, because the convention usually shuts down by 3 and I'm rolling by 4. So I eat a late lunch, early dinner with some friends on the way out of town. We're good to go. But then you drive home. And you might get home, let's say you don't have dinner with people and you leave at 4 o'clock. You might get home at 8, might be 9, might be 11, depending on traffic and service at the restaurant, wherever you do stop to eat. So let's say you get home at 10, unpack. You're probably not unloading the car on Sunday night. So you unpack your clothes, you get settled in, say hello to the spouse and cats, get to bed about midnight. Then Monday, you get to unload your car. You get to unpack all your boxes. You get to reshelve everything, and you get to redo your inventory so you can order again for the convention next month. Because if your convention is next week, you can't order for that show. You're too late. So, your 3-day convention, your work for that 3-day convention starts a year in advance. And you are realistically putting in a solid 4 to 5 days of work to participate in a 3-day convention. And that's nothing compared to what the people who are putting on the convention put in workload-wise. But that's a little peek into the world of a con man. And I've done years when I did 10 cons. I've done years where I've done 40. I'm not ever doing that one again. Nowadays, it's between 15 and 20. And that's still a lot. But it's way down, and I'm pretty happy to be able to cut it down a little bit. So you've stuck around for almost half an hour listening to me babble about conventions. That means that you enjoy what I'm doing, and if so, that means you should click the like and subscribe buttons and leave me a note telling me what your favorite convention experience ever has been to date. Let me know what con it was and what made it special. Till next time, bye.